A mum whose baby girl was cared for by Lucy Letby has revealed a sickening handwritten note left by the serial killer nurse before her child was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. The woman fears her daughter, who was born prematurely in September 2014, may have been left brain damaged by Letby and is calling for police to investigate. Following the guilty verdict, she unearthed a Polaroid picture taken by Letby of her baby sleeping in a hospital cot with a feeding tube detached from her nose, dated October 25, 2014. On the back of the image are the haunting words, "Caught in the act." The baby's name is redacted, deciding she is a big girl now and doesn't need to be tube fed anymore. The mum, who wishes to remain anonymous, told the newspaper of the day she and the baby's father were left the picture note by Letby. Its words later rendered horrifically ironic by the nurse being caught herself and brought to justice for deliberately harming infants in her care. She said, quote, "When we came in, Lucy was leaving a night shift and said, 'I left a little present in her cot for you.' I've always known it was her that wrote it because I put it up in a frame afterwards. When she was arrested, I immediately took it back down and put it in a drawer, and I've been unable to put it back up since." The mum revealed that the day after Letby left the note, her baby girl ended up at the centre of a medical drama. Initially, her daughter had been making positive progress on the neonatal unit and was moved to a nursery ward where she continued gaining strength. Having reached 5 pounds, her parents were preparing for her to be discharged when they arrived one morning shortly after Letby had been on shift to find alarms ringing and their daughter's health rapidly deteriorating. The mum said, quote, "I screamed for them to open up the incubator to get an oxygen mask on her. She had to have a lumbar puncture, then was put back in intensive care. No infection was found." Around the time she was born, the woman's daughter had a brain scan and the results were clear, she said. However, 8 months later, in May 2015, she visited a consultant after realising her daughter was struggling to sit upright. An MRI scan confirmed that she had brain damage with cerebral palsy. The parent continued, "There's never been an explanation. She was always being taken care of by Lucy or the head nurse had her. It was very rarely any other nurses. You sit all day looking at their incubator and don't really question anything. Nobody questions anything. I would sit and chat with Lucy. One time, when she was sat opposite me looking after another premature baby, she told me about going to university and her parents coming from Hereford. It was all just so normal. She was just a lot quieter than the other nurses though. Where the other nurses would be chatting away, she was more of a loner. That was the only thing that seemed different about her, but I just put that down to her being very quiet." Prior to Letby's first arrest, the mum received a cryptic text from another nurse at the hospital who had also cared for her daughter, saying that she was going to see a familiar face in the papers and, quote, "not to believe everything you hear." The medic, understood to be good friends with Letby, also allegedly said that being arrested is not the same as being charged. The mum later got in contact with police to voice her concerns over Letby taking care of her daughter and the lack of an explanation for her condition. She said, quote, "Their first response was that it wasn't in the time frame they were looking at. When they widened the date slightly, I emailed again, but they said it's not part of our investigation and we suggest you speak to her consultant. I can't get my head around how the police can put a timescale on it. To me, if you're a serial killer, you're not one for a certain amount of time. How can they disregard all those babies just up to those time dates? It doesn't make sense. I feel that police looked at the babies that had died, not the ones that have cerebral palsy, brain damage and other things." On the day she found out Letby was guilty, the mum said she burst into tears. She continued, "All the hairs were sticking up on my arms. I just brought the photo out and read the back of it thinking, it can't actually be. Why would she take a picture of a child with a feeding tube hanging out of its nose? If that ever happened, nurses wouldn't leave it. They'd put it straight back. The feeding tube would go down her nose and into her stomach. That's how she was fed. In the picture, the plaster should be taped to her nose to keep it on, but it isn't. It's not a nice photo, and I don't know why anyone would take a picture of it. None of the other nurses left notes on the ward either. It's awful, looking back at it now." Referring specifically to the, quote, "caught in the act" part of the note, she said, "It's shocking. It feels like a sick joke. That's why I can't put it up, and I never will." Her comments come as another mum, Emily Morris, calls for police to investigate the death of her 1-month-old son Alvin, who passed in 2013 and was also cared for by Letby. According to the BBC, the nurse wrote a message in his christening book which read, "To Alvin with love on your special day." A handwriting expert who also compared evidence produced at Letby's trial has confirmed that in her opinion the nurse wrote both notes. Comparing the message about Alvin to that of the unsigned note on the Polaroid left in 2014, Tracy Trussell, a consultant graphologist for Handwrite, said, quote, "There can be no doubt that the same author is responsible for writing both notes. The telltale clues, the spatial arrangement is the same, the size, slant, stretched letters all identical. The I's are all dotted but slightly to the right, and the oversized letter S's penned significantly larger than the other letters." Although there was an initial police investigation into why the baby girl was left with cerebral palsy, no further action was taken against Letby. The parents are now seeking further recourse in light of her whole life jail term. Karen Cathcart, medical negligence partner at Devonshire Claims, said, quote, "It's unclear at this stage why the police did not pursue this case, but it's clear there needs to be further investigation. This girl has been impacted for life and the family deserve answers." While the Letby case only included 14 cases, it's an unfortunate fact that there are likely many more families who have been impacted by her actions, and we are seeing a large number of people who are now seeking further answers. As this legal battle unfolds, we can only hope that the truth will prevail and that measures will be taken to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. We urge anyone who may have suffered as a result of Letby's actions to seek legal advice immediately. Cheshire Police said they are currently reviewing other cases related to infants under Letby's care, a task being undertaken by a task force of officers operating under the name Operation Hummingbird. A spokeswoman for the force said, quote, "We're in the process of reviewing other cases and are unable to comment on specific babies' families at this stage and whether we are investigating further or not, but when we're in a position to say more, we will." Okay, so this article was released just this morning, and many people will know that I created a video yesterday which is titled "Lucy Letby, the motive behind her crimes." I'll put a link to that down in the video description box below if you wish to check it out after this one. And in that video, I kind of alluded to the fact that really trying to pinpoint a specific motive in this case is almost a bit of a fool's errand in many ways, because only Lucy Letby herself knows why she committed these crimes. But in that video, I also give my own opinion on what I believe forms part of Lucy Letby's motivation. And what stood out to me in this trial is that I believe Lucy Letby took enjoyment or got enjoyment from being perceived as someone who she wasn't. And what I mean by that is the manipulation, the lies, being perceived as this perfect individual, this nurse who would go above and beyond the call of duty, someone who was kind and compassionate, and all the while she was committing these evil or horrendous acts. And again, this particular article here, this Polaroid caught in the act, it's almost as if she's putting it there in your face for you to see, but no one would ever believe that, would they? No one would ever believe that she was harming people because of the way that she was perceived, not only by her colleagues and the management there at the hospital, but also by the parents of the children that she cared for. So she took a great deal of satisfaction from committing these crimes and being actually perceived as someone completely different by the outside world. Also in yesterday's video, I briefly touched upon the sympathy card which Lucy Letby wrote and sent to one of the parents of a child that she had killed. She took a photograph of this sympathy card and it was later recovered from her mobile phone. And I can't stress enough, as I stated in yesterday's video, there is a real hardened sadistic edge with Lucy Letby. That's my own personal opinion. I don't believe that she simply took a photograph of this sympathy card just to relive what she had done. I truly do believe that Lucy Letby would take a look back at the sympathy card and think to herself, this is who they believe I am. This is who you believe me to be, but I'm not that person. And I think she would actually revel in that. I really genuinely do. I feel a lot of her motivation or satisfaction from orchestrating these attacks came from the feeling of superiority over others, not so much on a technical level or on an educational basis. But in terms of, you don't really know the real me. I've been doing this stuff, I've been committing these crimes, and you've got no idea. Ha ha ha. That's almost how it feels to me. Again, just my own personal perspective there. And I think that this could be shown in as much as a blatant, caught in the act written on the back of this Polaroid here. Now, I don't have any evidence personally if this child was attacked by Lucy Letby. But when you look at it in that light, what does that tell you? Caught in the act. Would she be so brazen and so bold as to write something like that after committing an attack? I genuinely believe that she would, because I felt that she felt untouchable during these crimes, that she felt that no one suspects me, no one is ever going to find out, no one is ever going to know who I truly am. And I really do believe that Lucy Letby got a lot of satisfaction from living this sadistic double life. Now, as I'm narrating this, what I'm going to say next is going to be, again, purely speculative and just, as I say, pure speculation. So do bear that in mind as we continue. But as I'm narrating this, I'm starting to think more about this situation with Dr. A. And I wonder, was Lucy Letby's interest in this individual based on this doctor's status, in that he was a married man, someone who had children, what most people would class as morally off limits, if you know what I mean. And I wonder if that was part of the appeal for Lucy Letby, this fantasy of a double life with another individual. And I don't mean in terms of attacking children, but I mean in terms of this other individual's status, a married man, someone who's got children, a secret relationship hidden from the... Do you know what I mean? I wonder if that was part of the allure for Lucy Letby and why she was entangled in some way, shape or form with this married doctor. Anyway, as I say, purely speculative, and we may touch upon that in future videos. Anyway, do leave your own thoughts and theories down in the comment section below. I'll be sure to check those out. Very shortly, you'll be able to see the Lucy Letby playlist, which has all of the videos that I've created on this case and the trial of Lucy Letby in one convenient folder. So feel free to check those out at your leisure. I'll also put a link, as I said earlier, to the video Lucy Letby, the motive behind her crimes, that I created yesterday. I'll put a link to that down in the video description box below. As always, many thanks for joining me for this video. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.